It is day 134 of the second Trump administration. We're starting tonight, you guessed it, with money, power, and politics. The market started the month of June with slight gains across the board. Good news. But that is despite growing tensions between the United States and some of our most important trading partners. Today, China denied the White House accusations that it broke the Geneva trade agreement. Chinese officials said that it was the U.S. was the one to breach the deal and that China was prepared to respond. It is just the latest sign that negotiations between our two countries are going off the rails. Today, the White House press secretary confirmed that Trump and Chinese President Xi will likely talk later this week. And here's what Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent had to say yesterday. Watch.
I am confident that when President Trump and Party Chairman Xi have a call, that this will be ironed out. But the fact that they are withholding some of the products that they agreed to release during our agreement, maybe it's a glitch in the Chinese system, maybe it's intentional. We'll see after the president speaks with the party chairman.
Why he's so confident, we do not know. And it is not just China that's unhappy. The European Union is prepared countermeasures after President Trump said he will double tariffs on steel and aluminum to 50% this Wednesday. The EU says this move undermines their efforts to negotiate a solution on their ongoing trade war. All right, with that, let's bring in our lead-off panel tonight. Lou Broadwater is here, Pulitzer Prize-winning White House correspondent for The New York Times. Susan Glasser joins us, staff writer for The New Yorker, and David Drucker, senior writer at The Dispatch. Luke, let's start with you. All that I just went through comes with just about 1 month to go before Trump's self-imposed tariff pause goes away. So put China aside. Where are we on all the potential trade deals with the rest of the countries?
We don't have a lot to show for it. If you'll recall, the White House promised 90 deals in 90 days. I think we have one, the United Kingdom. That is not the type of progress that was promised to the American people. As you just pointed out, China is threatening to retaliate. EU is threatening harsh countermeasures. These look a lot more like trade wars escalating, not like trade deals that are about to be ironed out any minute. Maybe it's true that Trump will get on the phone and a deal will be reached. Sometimes that does happen. But by the White House's own deadline, we are about 89 deals to go and we're running out of time.
And we should note that even the deal with Great Britain was in name. We do not know any details, and what we do know of the deal, we're not gaining more than we already had. Susan, the president is now appealing a second court decision that would block his tariffs, claiming that the ruling is hurting his ongoing trade negotiations. But the trade negotiations are a political argument, and aren't the court decisions based on a legal argument?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Steph. I mean, remember, one of the ways in which Trump has justified this overarching upending, really, of the global trade order is by invoking the presidential emergency powers. As you know, he's invoked everything from an emergency at the southern border to using this on the economy. And it's not going to be resolved, let's face it, by the beginning of July, one way or the other. So there's the question you posed at the beginning here, which is about trade deals. Not only are there not 90 in 90 days, it's impossible to really reach anything more than accord to keep talking about an actual trade deal with any of these countries. I think that's important to underscore. Even with the deal with Great Britain, that's really what it is an agreement in principle to keep talking about the actual deal. So Trump hasn't even gone that far. But even if he did, this uncertainty is going to hang over the global economy. And that, I think, is what's causing almost levels of panic among many of the business people I talk to, because they can't plan for their businesses. That's not going to go away at the beginning of July, even if Trump were to reach many more of these agreements in principle, because the legal question around whether he can even do these tariffs is not going to be resolved in any definitive way. These are just preliminary court rulings in cases that are probably going to go on for months or years more.
David, I've had one question for about 100 days. With the exception of Donald Trump and Peter Navarro, who are the voters? Who are the leaders that love these tariffs? Because the New York Times reported that leading conservatives pushed a court to block Trump's tariffs. What does that tell us about where the Republican Party really are when it comes to these tariffs? Because for every business leading Republican I talk to, they're sort of holding their nose, holding their ears, holding their breath and dealing with Trump on the tariffs, but none of them are gung-ho behind it.
Yeah, that's correct. And that fits with the business people that I've talked to, business owners who have been impacted horribly by the tariffs, even though they were or are broadly supportive of Trump when it comes to things like tax cuts and deregulation. But the political question you ask is, I think, the important one. And Trump isn't really feeling any political pain from all of the economic uncertainty that these trade wars are causing. Grassroots Republicans are behind him. His approval ratings with them are at about 90%, Republican voters broadly, which means when I talk about the grassroots Republican base, they're even happier with the idea of what Trump is doing and happy to give him all sorts of latitude to deliver on this 90-day pause, and I'm sure the next 90-day pause that we'll get after this one expires. And trade deals, which can take several months to years to accomplish, aren't yet completed. Republicans in Congress are also giving him latitude. They're not fighting him. Why? Because their voters trust Trump more than them, and they're focused on the reconciliation package. So Trump can be very sensitive to political pushback, but he's not getting any right now.
Well, I just don't know how this reconciliation package gets paid for. Luke, new topic. We saw Ukraine carry out an unprecedented drone attack inside Russia just ahead of planned negotiations between the two countries. Where do things stand? What does that tell you?
Right. Well, famously, when Zelensky was in the Oval Office, Donald Trump told him he didn't have any cards. He didn't have any cards to play. Well, it does look like Zelensky does have some cards to play, and the Ukraine military does have some things that they can still do to defend themselves and push Russia back. I was talking with one senior Democrat the other day, and he was saying how impressed he'd been with the kind of drone technology and how nimble the Ukrainian military was being with their drones fighting off Russia. So they may have more leverage than previously believed, that they were sort of, counted out. So look, it's a big boost for Ukraine. And I do think it gives them a stronger negotiating position going forward.
All right, their drone technology may be impressive, but what if our enemies use it? Susan, there's a ton of talk since this operation about Ukraine rewriting the rules of war. But what is to stop a terror group from carrying out an attack just like this? Are we prepared?
Well, I think that's the question to ask, Steph. And certainly when I've been speaking with national security professionals over the last couple of years, believe me, they are very, very closely monitoring developments on the battlefield in Ukraine. And that includes both Ukraine's ability to reinvent its economy and actually to create its own military industrial complex, in part because of the uncertainty generated by Donald Trump and the question of how long the rest of the Western European democracies and the United States would be supporting Ukraine. So remember that in part, their ability to iterate has been supported by the previous U.S. administration as a way to hedge against our own political uncertainty. But Russia has also managed to revamp its economy, to remilitarize its economy, to get around, in effect, many of the sanctions that the Biden administration and other European allies put on Russia for its reinvasion of Ukraine in 2022. So you're seeing basically how quickly the military technology is moving. Let's remember that in this attack, a year and a half in the planning, the Ukrainians didn't trust the United States enough to tell them about it, which I think is very revealing in and of itself, first of all. Second of all, this is an attack, not just a drone attack. It's a significant strategic attack on Russia's long-range bombers. These are exactly the planes that are being used to wreak havoc, not against military targets in Ukraine, but Russia is attacking Ukraine's civilian infrastructure and Ukraine's civilian population with these kinds of planes that were hit by Ukraine. Ukraine is hitting military targets in Russia. Russia is hitting civilians.